Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the tensions between Venezuela and Guyana. Now, we are continuing to see Venezuela position itself as if it is preparing for some sort of military activity against Guyana. Now, what is that going to look like? Is Venezuela going to, quote unquote, invade Guyana with the intent of seizing this area, essentially 2/3 of Guyana, the Essequibo region of Guyana? How is this going to go down? What are the options of the Venezuelan military? Well, obviously, Venezuela would have the capability of outright occupying all of Guyana, including the capital, Georgetown. The Guyanan military is very small. On paper, 3,000 troops, an infantry battalion, presidential security elements, some special operations forces, and paramilitary forces, very light weaponry. You know, when compared to Venezuelan military capability with a military well over 100,000 personnel, tens of thousands of additional paramilitary forces, fairly well-equipped military with heavy armored vehicles, tanks, fairly good quality Air Force in terms of 24 or so Su-30s and even some F-16s. We don't know the reliability of those F-16s given continued sanctions on Venezuela, but we do know those 20 Su-30s that the Venezuelans operate are in relatively good conditions and capable. Now, again, you could see a all-out occupation of Guyana, which would lead to, in all probability, direct intervention by the United States. The United States would also be able to see the buildup of Venezuelan forces preparing for said operation. Now, we think that is the most unlikely scenario. Again, a massive hard power use of force, unlikely. What we think the Venezuelans could be preparing is a use of Venezuelan paratroopers dressed as indigenous peoples. So the idea is that Venezuela would use its Mi-17s. It also has a couple of Mi-26 helicopters that can carry up to 100 personnel. And it would transport, again, paratroopers and possibly actual indigenous persons into Guyana in a use of soft power and quote-unquote proxy forces to gain control of some of these areas. Even with the use of paratroopers disguised as indigenous personnel, it would be difficult for the Guyanan military to respond to that. And then in all likelihood, what would happen if the Guyanan military were to use its forces against these quote-unquote indigenous personnel, then that would give the regular Venezuelan military the pretext to then use hard power to quote-unquote protect those indigenous persons that are reclaiming this area. So if Venezuela moves, again, we believe it's going to be a soft military activity, a soft military operation. It's not going to look like a traditional invasion. what you could see is scantily clad, indigenous-looking personnel raising the Venezuelan flag over certain areas of the Essequibo region. That is the most likely scenario at this point. Highly unlikely we will see Venezuelan paratroopers dropping into Georgetown or Venezuelan Marines storming the beaches near Georgetown. I think the United States would, without a doubt, absolutely intervene if that occurred. I think it's a high probability the U.S. would intervene. Or some other actor such as Brazil, or some kind of combination of outside actors in support of Guyana. Again, there's money in this area. There's oil revenues. The U.S. wants a piece of it. The Brazilians probably want a piece of it. Everyone wants a piece of it. But if the Venezuelans are smart, they're probably going to try, again, some sort of soft power operation where you see these indigenous personnel taking over areas, and then it escalates from there. And then in terms of the Venezuelan position, they would then perceive themselves as gaining control of the Essequibo region. So right now we think that's what the Venezuelans are preparing. Again, some sort of limited operation with the use of personnel that could be military personnel, but initially won't appear as military personnel. They'll either appear as some sort of indigenous or some sort of civilian, some sort of civil operation declaring the emergence of the Essequibo region with Venezuela. So we'll watch this. We'll continue to watch this, and it could get interesting. And we'll bring and continue to analyze the situation, and again have more very, very soon as events warrant. Thanks for joining us. More to come. Have a good day.